All right, very good. Andrew Callahan, there is a lot of consternation over this loss against Indianapolis. In the long term, does losing games like this, because obviously this season's not about this season, it's so much as it is in the future of the franchise. What are your feelings on how much these losses mean for the future of the team, coaching staff? What are you gleaning from all this?
Yeah, I don't think you can take any one game and push it into the future and say, oh, this is going to be some kind of giant moment that we all look back on and you knew either Gerard Mayo didn't have it or Drake May was the quarterback. It's a collection of games. And what you find out about your team, whether you're a contender or pretender or whatever the Patriots are, is who you are under pressure. Right now, they're losing these games, even though they're outgaining the Colts by like 200 yards and win the turnover battle, because they're losing in the pressure spots, not just the end-of-game drive there, which involves clock management, it involves how prepared you are as a defense, but also in the red zone. Like, this did not come down to a 20-play drive, if you include the two-point conversion. Had they gotten one more touchdown, then they did field goal and instead go 2 for 6 inside the red zone. So to me, what that says over the course of a season is, okay, do we have the right coaches? Because there are specific coaches in charge of some of the red zone work. And then when it comes to the defense and playing under pressure, what are we doing in practice? What are we doing in meetings that doesn't have us steeled for those moments? To me, that's what you can take from this season. What do we need to change, but not one particular game?
And if you won the slim margin of victory, listen to the scores from last week. These are just scores. I'm cherry picking, but there's a lot. 24-19, 26-23, 21-14, 23-20, 26-21, 25-24, 23-22, 17-13. I mean, I've left out 3 games. I mean, those are all one-score games. That's in so much of the NFL, and you're seeing it with a team like Kansas City. So much of the NFL is knowing how to win and not choking in those situations. Kansas City with another quarterback and another coach, just for the final possessions of the game, might have a reverse record or might, or certainly a losing record. It's just not choking and not giving games up. You see teams do it all the time.
And the Patriots are what, Andrew, 2-5 in one-score games?
Now, let's say this, though, because it's such a short season. Over a baseball season, everyone's around 500 in one-run games, right? Unless you absolutely suck. There's luck involved. Hunter Henry having that ball ricochet off his hands, falling backwards at the 1-yard line, 3 feet from a touchdown, into the Colts defender's hands is mostly just bad luck. In the same way it was good luck when you go back to the opener and they have that pick at the 1-yard line in Cincinnati, which should have been a touchdown for the Bengals. So it does cut both ways. There's randomness in here, which is often why you see teams with bad records in one-score games one season often have that flip the next.
Okay, but there is that. But it's not. I don't think it's a coincidence that Kansas City is winning these close games.
No, I'm just saying it's both.
No. What I'm saying is, though, like how much of that can be learned? In the fact that they're not doing it now, does that concern you for the future with this coaching staff?
Not yet, because I think we're going to see changes to this coaching staff within the first week or two after the season. This is me reading tea leaves. Also a comment that Gerard Mayo made yesterday that I don't think got a whole lot of pub when someone asked him, hey, what are you doing during the bye week? And I was headlong into film, and Doug very graciously handles a lot of the press conference and radio stuff for us on Mondays. But he said, I'm going to get away, and I'm going to think about these conversations and decisions that come up on us real fast in the offseason. You guys know, free agency is not until March. The draft is not until April. What happens the first week after the season are coaching changes. And everyone makes a big deal about the head coaches. I don't think Gerard Mayo is going anywhere and shouldn't. But coordinators, assistants, and you already have 2 teams, the Bears and Jets, who go, well, my boss is gone. Why would I expect to be here next season? Probably making some calls.
All right, the self-scouting, as you know, like in the bye week, these teams self-scout.
Yeah.
And that, there might be some decisions that, some flaws that they're seeing throughout the season so far that can be attributed. Who do you think is most likely to be replaced? Or what changes do you think most likely in your opinion?
Yeah, I want to underscore this is just speculation, and this isn't honestly unique to the Patriots, right? If you're looking at any team close enough and be like, what are the positions that are underperforming relative to the talent, or more importantly, to rebuild, who's not developing? Patriots took 2 receivers in the first 4 rounds, and they haven't had a catch between them in weeks. Javon Baker plays 4 snaps. I would look at the receivers. Tyler Hughes is that coach. The offensive line, another position. Gerard Mayo said multiple times, frustrated by the offensive line, lack of continuity. And some of that is injuries. Like, it's just bad luck for Scott Peters, who's also a rookie offensive line coach. But that's the most important position on staff after the coordinators, because you're dealing with more players and basically half of the offense. So we don't pay attention to them except for when they screw up. But every coaching staff is looking for a good offensive line coach. Scott Peters, once hailed as an excellent assistant offensive line coach, I think there are questions about him as a lead guy.
How much of this is the structure that was put into place when the season started? First-year head coach, first-year defensive coordinator, Alex Van Pelt. Not a ton of experience calling offensive plays. First-year special teams coach, first-year offensive line coach. I mean, how much of that is the people above them?
Yeah, it's a good question, John, because I think the other element, and we remember when they were building that staff, Gerard didn't have a network, so they leaned heavily on Elliott Wolf. They also had to take their time. So there were candidates on the market, not just the coordinator level, but position coaches that were going left and right. Some of them don't have interest. You can't hire a guy and force him to play or work in your building if he doesn't want to be there. But I do think it was the inexperience that Gerard had inhibited him from building the staff that he wanted, because he was learning on the fly. That's why Alex Van Pelt was the 12th out of 12 candidates interviewed and then finally hired.
See, the thing with the offense, though, when you're talking about, because I hear Alex Van Pelt's name get mentioned a lot, and you didn't mention him here, but whether it's the offensive line coordinator or the receivers coach, offense hasn't necessarily been the issue here.
Not lately.
No, it's more about the defense, and you've got this defensive-minded head coach. You got the defense, which personnel-wise, which was supposed to be the strong point of this team going into the season. You know, you look at the number of points they're scoring and how they're scoring them, and with the personnel they've got, that's actually about right. And the offensive line, for as bad as it is personnel-wise, there have been games when they played better than anyone, at least I thought they would. So I look at it and say, defensively, these guys should be way better. They should have been able to get a couple of key stops on Sunday in order to win that football game.
All right,
so
well,
it's not as fun to look at, Fred, but I think that's something that has to be looked at.
It's totally
and
fair.
we can-
One quick note on that. The defensive staff is much smaller. Like, you can identify who's screwing up more easily. I think if you're Gerard Mayo, you just know them better because you work with guys like Mike Pellegrino and Brian Belichick and DeMarcus Covington last year. The offensive staff is big and it's new.
And
Okay.
who's he more friendly with?
You guys were talking about the defense and the relationship between Mayo and the defensive coordinator, and all those things, and you know how that might be a difficult change to make given their relationship. But when you look at this roster as a whole, you and John were talking about it during the break. What percentage of this roster do you think is here in 2 seasons? The current roster.
It's a great question.
Yeah, it is.
Not one I've,
Yeah,
not thought of
approximately.
before. Right. Not trying to be exact. I'm just, this is something I was thinking about more than a month ago. And I think the answer is probably somewhere between 12 and 20%, because you look at, obviously, Drake May. Ramondre Stevenson's under contract, but I think after next season could be an easy out, and he's an older running back. Probably one or two of the receivers. Pick whichever one you want.
Barmore.
Barmore, certainly. Keon White could be, but then he'll hit free agency. Kyle Duggar may or may not still be around. Certainly Christian Gonzalez. I don't think there's a reason why they wouldn't just give him a blank check and say, please stay, please stay, please stay. And then another guy or two. Like this, they overturned 40% of the roster from the end of last season to the end of training camp this year. And you're still looking and going, where are the pieces? And that's what this season was about. Foundation. Mayo told us at the right before training camp started, and then said it last week again. We're trying to find out who we have and who we can move forward with.
And is it the results worse or better than you anticipated? Not in terms of record or team performance, but in terms of individual player performance.
It's worse. And I'm glad you made the qualifier, because everyone was like, oh, they're 3-10, year one of a rebuild. You're totally right. 1,000,000% right. The issue is the lack of development, or let's just talk about the defense. Okay, this defense, has gotten worse as the season goes on. Say we will about the worst Patriot teams in general. Their defense got better as the season went along. They're bottom 5 by DVOA, bottom 7 by EPA, and they're still allowing 23 points per game. So the offense is what it was, but that's getting better. And it's not just Drake May, though he's getting better and had his best game yet last Sunday. Like, the defense's complete collapse was something I don't think anyone saw.
And that's where the issue of the coordinator comes in. Because what you wanted to see this season is a positive evolution. And the biggest thing is Drake May, and we were talking about it again off air. Drake May's, you just share your thoughts. I mean, he's better than you expected, correct?
Yeah, he's a stud. Like,
Yes.
You sound like the beat reporter who's got one pen in one hand and pom-poms in the other. He's only played 8 games. I get it. But I counted 5 throws on Sunday, rewatching the film yesterday, where he had a completion for a first down, and the ball is leaving his hand either before or as the receiver's making his break. These are anticipatory NFL throws that made a difference yesterday that kept their offense alive. Forget the scrambling, forget the arm talent. Like, this was, I'm going to live within 15 yards of the line of scrimmage, and I'm going to kill you. And that's exactly what they did. Like, he is not only just a natural, not just talented, but he's growing in ways that some quarterbacks who stick around the league for 10 years don't make that many types of throws in one game.
Yeah, and if you watch games just on a Sunday, if you just flip, because I mean, the Patriots are at 1 o'clock on Sunday, so you have your options. If you flip around, I mean, May stands out. He just does. I don't know how many Patriots fans stick around or flip around or have the package or whatever, but I mean, if you watch other games, May is different. May is better. I mean, May's better than Richardson, and Richardson was a high pick. I mean, Richardson's a crazy athlete. Never going to get 2 points with him. But, I mean, you'd much rather have May just look around the league, what the kid can do, and that's the most important thing. I contend finding the quarterback is the most important thing, but then you have a Cincinnati situation where they have Joe Burrow, and now the team's out of playoff contention, and that's a coaching issue, but that's a coach that took them to the Super Bowl. But my contention is I'd rather have the quarterback than the coach first. Like, I can find another coach.
Yep.
Because I could always pay a guy, right? Like, there's always a Sean Payton out there that can be wooed, to come in and take over a team.
How would you woo Sean Payton? From the little you know about Sean Payton.
I would just show him a picture of Nathaniel Hackett and say that you can replace this moron and you can go whatever you want.
You're not going to dinner?
What, with Sean Payton?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if the
But
man...
if you're wooing the man, I'm just curious what that weekend looks like.
You're taking it literally, Andrew.
No. Come on. I want you to work for me. Just Fred, the owner of a football team.
Simple gestures. I mean, like, just let him know I'm thinking about him. Sending a text here and there.
Have
just
you talked
going,
to
like,
Sean
heads up.
Payton?
No, I've never spoken to him privately.
We did one thing at a Super Bowl with him once. Let me tell you something. He's the one who does the wooing.
Oh,
he does the long eye contact.
He's a Clinton.
Nice.
He does, yeah. He's got that. He's got that Bush, Clinton,
Most
you name
important person in the room. Look.
Obama, Trump thing. They've all got it right. And it's like when his handler is like tugging at him, and it's like it's time to leave, and he gives him the, they got the brush away. It's like,
so you
no,
feel good. You feel important.
I'm talking with these three here right now.
Who's another guy like that? Jerry Rice. I got that impression from because he followed the Jim Gray interview.
Nice guy.
And he was like who's that dickhead kind of situation. And
right
then,
afterwards, yeah.
and didn't have a handler, salt of the earth fella, not really a Clinton type. But I just want to throw the name Jerry Rice in here. Very impressive guy.
Yeah, I wouldn't have expected that from Jerry Rice, but just from what little you see of him on TV.
But I like an impressive man or woman. I value that. You have to admit it. I insult a lot of people, but if I find an impressive person, I stick with them.
Andrew Callahan, have you been starstruck by someone you were interviewing?
It's a good question.
Yeah, somebody who really connects with you like that.
Yeah.
Wallach and I found out at the Celtics day. Maybe you had talked to him before. I didn't know. Jaylen Brown.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
He
has a big
got presence.
Well, Jim Montgomery.
Oh, no,
was
the
like
kids say aura.
Jim Montgomery was like that. I mean, now he's gone.
But anyway, you've never had that happen to you?
You know what's funny is this is adjacent to that. It's not direct, but when the Celtics won the championship and they let the media in for an hour and you're in there to write stories or shoot video or do whatever, like Luke Cornett's at the top of the mountain, and that's a 7-foot dude, taller, higher than he's ever been. Champagne going everywhere. I want to ask him a couple of questions. He's leaning over for 5 straight minutes on ending eye contact, answering my questions. He can probably half hear, and I'm like, why? At the end of that, like, why are you talking to me? Just
because you were talking to him.
Because no one else was talking to him.
No one usually pulls Luke aside and says, "Here, let's sit down and talk."
You were the guy talking to him. He was overwhelmed.
We're bringing up guys like Sean Payton and Jerry Rice and Jaylen Brown. The guys that other guys want to talk to. So that's why
I'm speaking more to the eye contact.
Notable.
Like we could go back to my first year in the beat, and it's Tom Brady and it's Bill Belichick, and they've been to the last 2 Super Bowls, and they've won 5, and they go on to win another. But they're not spending time, as you know, making eye contact, making you feel a certain way that Sean Payton was.
Tom Bernansky was a man
who
could just stare at you and let you know.
Yeah.
Let me think on that.
Was a big. I'll tell you, Danny Ainge was an impressive man.
Yes.
Mike Gorman is an impressive man. These are impressive men that I've come across in my sports radio career. Those are two impressive.
But you haven't had that moment, huh?
Let me think on it.
I did. You know, we don't have.
My brain is too filled with stats doing the show.
We don't have Brad Stevens on the show because he was boring. And after Danny Ainge, because you had Danny Ainge who was he was unafraid, and then you have Brad Stevens who I've met and is a good guy and in a much more impressive face to face than he was on the radio. I found it disappointing.
Yeah, and when you say impressive, it's there's like almost an intimidation factor. You feel comfortable with him, but you also get the sense that he is more powerful than you at the same time. And with Brad, I always felt really comfortable talking to him.
Here's the thing, is that a fearlessness in what they say because they know that they're good enough to pull it off, and a not talking down to you unless it's warranted. And just in an obvious intelligence. I mean, Brad Stevens is an intelligent guy, obviously, and a great GM. He just after having Danny Ainge on for a decade, it was very difficult to transfer over. Go ahead,
Terry Francona, when he wasn't insulting me and sitting
or taking
going
a
to the
dump
bathroom.
while you were
right. Well, I was forced to sit there and half watch.
I got a good one. Going way back. Student at UConn. Gino Auriemma.
Ah, really?
Yeah.
He has to have
Yeah.
a presence.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
for him to
And
recruit
this was not
like that,
just like I'm 18 and I'm working for the student newspaper, which was also the case. Like you watch him operate, walk around the arena, treat people, talk to them, eye contact, whole spiel. Absolute Gino Auriemma.
So he's not an ass.
well,
No.
he might be an ass to some people, but to build a program like that, like in this, and to keep it that successful, I mean, there's no reason UConn should be this huge, have any huge sports.
I know. For those of you who have not been to UConn, and Andrew could back me up on this, it's in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
Connecticut. I mean, there's nothing near the
like,
campus.
There's no reason in particular that he should have the world's greatest basketball team, women's
He and
basketball
Jim
team in history.
Calhoun, master recruiters to that.
Well, you have to have that thing. You have to have that shine.
We have a Moe's grill.
Yeah. I wish there was a Moe's closer to here.
Andrew Callahan, UConn grad.
Isn't there Moe's down in Foxborough, Patriot Place?
There's a Moe's in Watertown. There might be a Moe's in Waltham.
Well, how close do you need it?
What, Foxborough? Watertown? I'm not driving to Watertown.
There
to
used
get
to be a
Moe's.
Moe's out near me. It closed.
Moe's is a fast food place that you don't go out of your way unless
How
it's
nice
Chick-fil-A.
is that?
If there
that
were
welcome.
If there were an Arby's within 50 miles of here, I would go once a month.
I think you'd be surprised. I think because there's one real close to my parents' house, and I don't go to it anymore.
Well, that's because of the woman with the open wounds on her arms.
There's a woman with open sores at the drive-through,
Wildly different.
and she was handing me the food.
We've got the sores.
Yeah, she obviously she was injecting drugs, and they were obviously speed. They were amphetamine because this was not a one and out shot. This was multiple shots a day arms. That, I mean, she had really abused the veins. I mean, because you know when people shoot coke,
Of course.
they're not just shooting it once. When you're shooting, you want to see someone who flips
Don't
out.
waste time saying things that we all know. Yes.
You know that if you want to see someone who's completely off the rails, it's someone who's shooting cocaine or shooting cocaine. Those are the people. That's when Lane Staley spent 2 days in his bathroom. Mark Lanigan came in Lane
Do a
Staley.
lot of people shoot the straight cocaine, or are they shooting speedballs?
No, straight cocaine. They shoot
Oh.
straight cocaine.
No, I never. I never.
No,
around
speedball would kind of even you out. No, I've never been around it either. But this is what I've heard. Lane Staley, died OD'd. He was a singer of Alice in Chains. Mark Lanigan, singer of the Screaming Trees, comes in one day and Lane Staley's laying on his stomach in the bathroom. He ignores it. He comes in the next day. Lane Staley's still laying on his stomach in the bathroom. He's like, "What are you doing?" He's like talking to the guys on the wall. He was in there for 2 days. He was communicating with people that lived in the wall. That is the kind of delirium that you go into when you've been up for 3 days shooting speed or coke or whatever it is.
Let that be a lesson to you, Andrew.
Andrew, because I know
learned
the
a lot of
pressures at
this.
UConn. And don't think someone's impressive just because they're a hotshot with a marijuana cigarette. A jazz cigarette is. You want, and if someone asks you if you want to get wet, they're not talking about. They're talking about smoking angel dust.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, baby. I remember Connecticut. I would go out there and I would bathe in the river naked with Fran Lebowitz.
Fran Lebowitz.
She had a house, man.
Fawn Leibowitz.
No, Fran Lebowitz,
sorry.
the woman that Scorsese's
I'm
so
thinking.
fond of.
I'm thinking Animal House. That's on me.
No, Ann Leibowitz was what? Fran Lebowitz. Yeah, she had a dead. He looked up the dead lady so he could have sex with her.
That's it.
You understand, Jack?
No.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
If you like that clip, and how could you not? Check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here. Point slightly up and to the left. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. Point slightly down and to the left. And for the latest from the Sports Hub, download at 985thesportshub.com.